there, Wendy here with Jazzy Doodle Designs, and today I'm going to be coloring in Menuet De Bonheur. I'm sure that is totally incorrect. But anyway, it's Kanoko Egusa, I believe. And we're going to be doing this page. Let's get started. Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be using Prismacolor pencils. And as I go along, I will explain my process with you. And then at times I will be quiet because almost 3 hours of talking is a lot. But I will try and explain my thoughts and why I do the things that I do. So let's go. So here what I'm doing is I'm kind of going around. I pick a color that I want the overall color of the raspberry to be, like a darker shade of that. And so I go in and I put my color in, and then I'm going in with a slightly darker tone here and really concentrating just on the edges of each little berry bit. Now, each of these raspberries I do a little bit differently because not all fruit is exactly the same color. So feel free to mix whatever tones you want. Like if when I do this, you like your raspberries to be black, like black raspberries, or maybe you want them to be more like the reddish purple color. You know, it's really a personal taste, and I was just kind of playing with the different purple tones on these and adding the colors and then using white to kind of blend them out. And by doing that, it really kind of blends them and kind of gives them each a unique color. And I'm trying to keep just a little bit of the white paper popping through. And I go back and forth on this. Sometimes I feel like it makes sense to leave the white paper. Other times I'm like, no, it should be all blended and I should add the white using another medium. My concern is that by leaving the white paper, does it look unfinished? And so I kind of go back and forth. And you can see I leave a little and then I fill it in and I leave a little. But basically I just go back in with the same 3 colors each time. And then here I'm adding black just in the deepest crevices. You could use something like a sepia or an indigo blue. You know, any of those type of tones here. If you wanted a red, you could use like a black raspberry or a Tuscan red. I just felt like black was really what I wanted on this one. And then kind of once again, just trying to add those little bits of highlights with the white. And I kind of go back and forth, and you're going to see I use paint pen, I use gel pen. I'm just trying to get the look that I want. And then just trying to smooth out some of those starker bits of white. Here, I could just never really get it exactly the way I wanted it, so I decided to move on. This time I take a little bit different approach. Instead of just going around the edges, I go ahead and fill in each of the little berries with a violet color, leaving just a little bit of the white, but less than I did on the first one. Apologize for the angle, I'm a little too up and down. It's so hard sometimes to really keep track of where the camera is, where your book is, plus do the coloring. And when I color, I tend to get in a little bit of a zone, and it's just hard. But here I'm just using a darker shade to kind of go in to those crevices, just like above. We really want to give a little bit of depth to the raspberry, and by using a darker shade in the shadowy areas, it can really make it more rounded and make them look like individual little berry bits. So once again, just kind of blending the different shades here together. I pretty much do the same thing on all of them. It's just a matter of which color you lay down first and which color you blend with and that kind of stuff. So the top ones I was doing more purple tones. Here I'm laying down more of a darker tone to begin with, so the overall effect of this berry should be a little darker. I think that's kind of the fun of this, is just experiment a little bit and play around, see what colors you like, what combinations you like. And coming in with a black cherry, which has a little bit of a more of a red violet as opposed to the blue violet of the black cherry. Once again, always leaving that little bit of a white. That way when you blend, you'll get a little bit of a lighter shade in those areas that just give it a little more realistic look and less flat. And then once you put the white on there, that really kind of mutes everything. So then coming back in with the black cherry will bring the vibrancy of the color back. Once again, kind of concentrating in those little, in the shadows or the crevices between the berry bits. Just doing the same thing with another tone. And then I like the look of going in with the black and just deepening those shadows a little bit. It is certainly a personal preference. That tends to give it more of the individual berry look, but it's all in what you like. Now here I go in with a crimson red as the main color, and if you notice, I'm just kind of going at the top of the berry instead of doing the whole circle. Once again, just playing around and seeing, well, what would happen if I did this? Changing the colors completely, so this is dark purple, and I decided that wasn't really the color. I wasn't liking that, so then I just went in with the black cherry. Filling those in, and you can see how much redder this berry looks by starting with that vibrant red to begin with. But you'll see as we go along, it's going to deepen up and become more of that. It's not a red raspberry. It still ends up looking more like a blackberry or an actual, yeah, I guess that's what these would be, is blackberries. To me, the one on the far left is a little too purple. But that's okay. Like, this is, it's a coloring book page. I don't think there's anybody following me that is expecting ultra realism in their color book pages. Or, spoiler alert, probably going to be disappointed. I do challenge myself to see how realistic can I make this. But at the same time, I guess while I want them to look realistic, I'm not hyper realistic where people look at my stuff and go, oh my gosh, is that a photograph, or whatever. Like that's not gonna happen. Here once again, throwing out a whole different color. So that was black raspberry, and I like that color, it's not bringing out the vibrant red like the one below it, and it's not as purple as the ones to the left. And so I like that. Then having the black cherry over the top. And then going in with the black. Now to me, I like all of these in their own way. Here I'm going in, not sure why that's not showing up, but it's 90% cool gray, and seeing what would happen if I darken the tone with this. And then I go in with the black grape. Going around the edges. I think this one might be my favorite of all of them. Because to me it has the deeper tones that black raspberries have, or that blackberries. I don't know that I was really going for blackberry. In my mind I just had envisioned more of a, not the red raspberry, because I do those on the opposite side, but more of the purplish darker tones. And to me, this one's probably my favorite. But once again, just play around, see what you like, and it all works out in the end. I think too often we get afraid to try, and I'm the first to admit I get bogged down and I get in my head, and especially since I'm filming for y'all, I'm like, what are they gonna think, and will they like my art, and that kind of stuff. I think that's human nature. But at some point we just have to kind of dive in and try some different things and be like, okay, that was a little too purple, let's try this, or let's try that. And in the end, figuring out what we like, and when we do our the next time I do raspberries, I'll probably go with one of these latter combinations, because I really like how they're turning out, how they have just that hint of red as the undertone, whereas the ones that were the crimson ones, I think these bottom, like the bottom middle two, the redder ones, I think they could be put with a group of red raspberries and would look very natural. So here I'm using this is called Artistro. It's an acrylic paint pen, and I'm just putting it on and then just kind of smudging it a little bit. And I should probably just do this and then walk away. It's hard because when you get when you're really looking at it, when you're 4 inches from the page, you're like, oh, that doesn't look good. I can see my paint strokes, I can do this and that. But watching myself do it, they actually don't look bad, just the way I had them, just with the paint and the smudge. But then I feel the need to me, some of them looked a little straight liney, so here I'm trying to fix it and blend it, and then that's just eliminating it. and I'm leaving all this in because I want you guys to see all the process so that you can get the benefit of what I do, and you can say, oh, I would have just stopped here, or I like the effect that you got there. Sorry about the phone. So moving on, this side I'm going to do actual red raspberries. So I go in, I'm looking for, the way I choose my colors is, at this point I'm looking for the more of the actual overall color that I want the berry to be. And this permanent red I think is really good, because next I'm going to use, I think, the carmine red, which is a little more pinky red, and I think that combination really is good. And once again, these berries were a little bit easier because they were bigger, so it was easier to kind of see where, by putting this raspberry in the actual crevices, it really is easier to define than on the left hand side where the berries were a lot smaller. That's one of the frustrations you run into sometimes in these color books, is they are so detailed that you're just coloring these itty bitty little things. But I do really like how the raspberries turn out. So just kind of going around the edges with this darker color, then coming in with a light peach to blend it out. I chose that because I didn't want to lose the warm. To me, raspberries don't really have that little white pop. I don't know why it says light peach. It's not light peach. This is probably crimson red. Oh, here's the Christmas crimson red. I'll try and fix that. Okay, all fixed. So now I'm going in with sepia, and I wanted to see how this worked to add more of a dark brown as opposed to a black, and I like this. I think it looks good. And then I just kind of repeat the process until I'm satisfied. So how's everyone doing? What you up to? Anything exciting going on in your lives? Ellie and I, we haven't had that much excitement in our life. We've got the grandbaby who is just so stinking cute. He's going on, 2.5 months now, really starting to smile and respond, which is awesome. I will post a baby Yoda picture randomly in here. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to post a little video of Macallan at the end of this. At the entire end of this, there'll be, I don't know, it's about 8 or 10 seconds. He's dressed up as Baby Yoda to go to his big brother's 8th birthday party. and then I'll post a picture of Jackson and McAllen for you to see, and a picture of Ellie. That way, if you're interested in that stuff, stick till the end and you can see it. But if you're not, you can just stop when I say thanks for watching. So I think that's how I'll go about that. That way, if you just come here for the art, you're not like, why is this lady posting pictures of her family? I don't care. But if you do care and you would like to see a cute little baby at the end and his adorable big brother, stick around. I'll even post a picture of Ellie at the end. So back to the raspberries. I think I did just a very similar berry here. I don't think I changed up the colors much. I really liked how the first one turned out. Oh, I did add a little bit of Scarlet Lake in this one. I can't remember because I was talking if I did it on the other one or not. But once again, play around with different colors. You could add a little bit of a pinkish red to this. You know, like a magenta or something like that if you wanted to bring out more of the pinkish tones. I really like this raspberry and the sepia and even black raspberry. I think it adds good depth without being overpowering. I think the black might be a little overpowering in these. So if you haven't already, please, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Let me know where you're coming from. Would love to hear from you guys. Get to know you as well. I love seeing people from all over the world on the channel, even if all over the world is just 2 states away. It snowed again this week. Again. We got about, I don't know, 4 inches yesterday maybe. It's not uncommon for Colorado. And then we will have some springtime days where we get all excited. I think last weekend it was like, I don't know, 65 or something like that. And you get so excited and then it'll snow again. We will definitely have at least one more big snowstorm. Usually happens in April. How about you guys? Seems to me we've had an awful lot of snow this year. More than normal. Is that the case where you guys are? Let me know in the comments. Repeating the process here. Overall with this page, and I'd really, really love to know your thoughts on this. Overall on this page, I feel like I like each of the elements. But I felt like my page in the end lacked a focal point. Something that just draws your eye and then allows you to drift over everything else. I felt like somehow I didn't like my focus in using, you'll see in the end when I do the background, but I just felt, I don't know, just unsatisfied with the page. And yet when I look at the coloring itself, I'm okay with the coloring. Like, I feel like these raspberries and blackberries turned out well. I like how I do each of the elements. It's just somehow they don't feel, I don't even think it's cohesive, because I do feel like while I use a fair number of pencils, which I always do, it's not like I have 40 colors going on or anything else. So please let me know what you think. I think in the end, I feel like there's a little bit of a lack of focus, like a lack of focal point. But I don't know. Please let me know what you think. I didn't get the first leaf recorded. I looked up and realized I didn't hit play because we are professionals here. But basically I'm going to go in with my Prussian green, which will be the darkest green I use in the leaves. And I'm just kind of going into where the shadow would be, those veins, and just kind of drawing it out a little bit, following along the lines that the artist gave us here. And I'm going to do that for all of these leaves. Then I'm going to go in with the other colors and just kind of blend them all together. So I guess I'll wait until we get there. I'm kind of jumping all over the place, talking about how I feel like there's a lack of focal point when we haven't even drawn more than 2 elements. It's just something that's been stewing in my mind since I finished the page, because it took me all day yesterday to edit the majority of this, and now I got to do the voiceover. So the page has been done for a couple of days. So I've just been thinking, it's been on my mind. I don't know why my camera's kind of going in and out of focus. I think it's having a hard time figuring out if it should focus on my hand. Is probably what's going on. So I'll check the settings and see if maybe I've managed to change my settings a little bit. So I decided I just wanted to extend you know, those darker lines. I just wanted them to be a little bit wider. So you could do that in the first step. There's no reason why I did it in 2 goes instead of 1, other than I just looked at it and decided I needed a little more of that darker color overall. So here I am going in with pale sage, and I'm just kind of blending that Prussian green and the pale sage. Not taking a lot of time, just kind of going over and blending it out roughly. My goal here is just to add a little bit of a base. I'm going to come back in here in a minute with another green. I like doing leaves with several colors. So next I'm going in with lime peel, and I'm not going over every single leaf. I'm just kind of hit or miss, adding some here and there to the leaves. This is bringing in a little bit of kind of a yellower tone. That pale sage is more just really light, and this adds a little bit of a yellow tinge to it. And then I believe that I'm gonna it's hard when you do voiceover because I know what's gonna happen. So I always want to jump ahead a little bit. That's my problem, not very patient. So here I'm using a little sap green light, just here and there. This adds a little bit of a bluer tone to the green. And as you can see, I'm not going over all of it, just here and there. So next I'm going over, this is the apple green, and I'm going over and blending everything out with it. So I'm not using a hard pressure, but I am really blending these at this point. This is going to be my final color, so I am looking for, well, I guess I add some more lime peel there. I must have missed some. But anyway, so now I'm back with the apple green. This is the color I'm using to blend all these other colors out. Now for variants, I guess on this leaf, I felt like the apple green wasn't making it the color I wanted. So I'm taking that Prussian green and I'm going in and applying it here and there, down the center, just on like maybe one side of a leaf, just to darken it up a little bit. Going in and getting the side of all of the little stems. Let me see if I can zoom in on that for you. Okay, next I'm going in with the pale sage and just blending that Prussian green and the pale sage into each of those little stems. Adding a little bit of lime peel, once again, just brings that little bit of a yellow tinge, and then following it up with the apple green, which adds a little brightness. So now I'm just going to do these leaves the same way, so I'll leave you to it. So as I go into this, let me know in the comments if you like me to leave this. Since we've already done so many leaves, do you want me to leave this at this speed? Or would you prefer that I speed it up at this point? Or would you prefer that I omit it completely? Myself, I always like when an artist shows all the work, but it could be sped up. So let me know what your thoughts are. I'm going to leave it. It's already sped up 2 times, so I don't normally color this fast, but it would be a ridiculously long video if I left it at real time. So let me know in the comments. Okay, so here we're starting the strawberries. Now strawberries oftentimes have that kind of unripe spot on them, and even on the ones that don't, they have a different tone in terms of color, so that's why I put that brighter yellow. And here I'm using that gray green light to depict that white that you get sometimes at the top and the bottom of strawberries. And I'm starting with an actual orange because, once again, strawberries are not completely red. And I encourage you to find reference photos when you're coloring things so that you can really look and see what colors you think should be there. I'm using a Scarlet Lake, which is actually a pretty intense, like a deep red. And I have my hand on what's called glassine, which is kind of, it has like almost like a wax paper feel to it, but it allows my hand to be on the paper and not smear anything. I should use this more often, and I start using it in here and then I get away from it. But here I'm going in with the carmine red, which is a little more of a pink red, kind of covering everything, including, you know, most of the yellow, because I definitely don't want huge yellow, you know, spots in my strawberries. But I am leaving various degrees of them. Now this raspberry is going to add a little bit of the shading I need on the sides to make the raspberries appear more 3D. And I just add that kind of randomly. You can see me kind of popping in and out of the strawberry a little bit with I just feel like when you go over the dark sides, it just really helps bring the shape of the raspberry out. Then going in with the overall color of the raspberry. Once again, kind of going over those little yellow spots here and there. So this is just a judgment call. You could color these completely red. You wouldn't have to do these yellow spots at all if you don't like them. Now here I go in with a black raspberry, which is quite a bit darker, and you can really see the strawberries starting to, I think, develop more of the color of strawberries and just the shape. Now I wouldn't want to leave this color as my top color because I do feel like it's a little browner than you want your strawberry to be. So we'll go back over it with our brighter red, but here I'm kind of blending that black raspberry with the regular raspberry just to kind of blend them out so you don't have the stark lines. And then I'm going to go in, and here I'm going in with pale vermilion, and that allows that yellow to kind of blend in a little bit more with the strawberry. Then I come in with the peach. Once again, just trying to, I'm not really trying to get a yellow look. I just want a little bit of a lighter tone there. And then I go over the entire thing with the Scarlet Lake. And you can see that yellow and the peach and that kind of stuff kind of shining through that Scarlet Lake, and adding a little bit more yellow to the top of that one there, but kind of covering it all over because overall I want the look of a red or a red strawberry, but I want those undertones of that yellow to come through. And in those two cases up here, I actually want them to look unripe. Once again, that's a personal preference, but I kind of like it. Here I'm going in with crimson red. Once again, just kind of adding some shadows underneath the leaves, along the edges. Just giving the strawberries just a little bit more definition. Here in the leaves, I wanted to add a little bit more depth and shading to where the veins, the deep vein of the middle would be. So I'm adding a little bit of burnt ochre to these leaves, just on the edges. I don't know, I kind of like that little bit of a browned look. Just makes them a little more interesting, I think. You could use any brown, you could use a different green. These I'm assuming these are gooseberries. So I'm kind of coloring them as such. We don't have a lot of gooseberries around where I live. Not saying that there aren't any, I'm just not as familiar with them. So I kind of chose colors that I thought would go good with my coloring book page. So I have the reds and the purples, so I thought I would stick with kind of some orangey, some red-orange type of colors. So I did it more for that than anything else. You could make these green, you could make them kind of a light green. I've seen them with kind of wider veins. You could really make them whatever you wanted, but I'm just telling you why I chose the color I did. So my thought is these berries would be kind of this yellow-orange color with a little kiss of kind of a reddish just in spots, almost like they were not completely ripe. There you go, Wendy. Get on camera. That would be helpful. Do the things, Wendy. Do the things. So here's where I was talking about just kind of bringing in just those little pops of red, just to make the berry look like it's beginning to ripen, but still has a little ways to go. I just think it makes it more interesting. I don't know how realistic it is. Like I said, I don't have a lot of experience. I saw some, I want to say these are fruit from like maybe the Midwest has these, or not Midwest, Pacific West, like Oregon, Washington, that kind of stuff. Seems like I saw them when I was in Oregon on vacation. But I could be totally wrong. I could be thinking of a totally different fruit. Here I'm just trying to add a little bit of texture to see if if that made a difference or not, if I liked that. I think it looks fine. I didn't feel like it really was tremendously helpful. They're small, so, and I hope you're not getting whiplash from all the up and down, but I wanted to be zoomed in so you could see, but by doing so, then you have, you know, the up and down motion. So like I did with the strawberries, I'm just bringing in that deeper tone to the edges and the tops here. I'm using this burnt ochre to kind of bring all the colors together, kind of blend them out a little bit, and just kind of tone down. Like the yellows were, to me, were like jumping out at me. And so I'm using this kind of brownish tone just to tone it back. The brownish tone. The brownish color, just to kind of tone it back a little bit and just make them a little more cohesive and a little less in your face. And here I'm using a darker umber and I'm just going along the edge. Now in reality, I probably should have put the dark color on the underside. That would make more sense since the light's coming up at the top. But you know, once again, this is a color book page. I personally don't look at that and get too all involved into light sources. I will, on an upcoming video, will explain to you guys how when I am thinking about light sources, kind of a quick and dirty tip that I use to determine where to put the lights and darks. In this case, it was just kind of a brain cramp for me. I just started coloring, and once I had about maybe a quarter of that branch, I thought of it, and I thought, well, not a lot I can do about it now unless I want to make that branch really, really dark or try and erase it. So I just kind of went with it. But if you're doing it, you may want to put the darker tone on the bottom and that orange, you know, the mineral orange and the light umber as your upper colors. So here I'm just going in with Artichoke, which is one of my favorite Prismacolor pencils. I just really like the earthy, not quite green, not quite brown color. I think it is perfect for foliage, and I use it often with leaves and in nature type of settings. Here I just found one of those stems that I missed before. So I'm just going back in and catching that up. I do this a lot. I don't know why, but, well, I do know why. I am impatient, y'all. I am a big picture kind of girl, and so I get impatient and I'm ready to move on to the next thing. I've done some leaves, I'm ready to move on. Look at those pretty strawberries. Can't wait to color them. And I don't stop and look and say, did I get all of the leaves? And I've been this way my whole life. Patience is not my strongest suit, so I beg your indulgence. I am sorry, because I do know that as a color, if you're doing this as a color along, you're probably screaming in your head, Wendy, get that other leaf. And then I don't, because unfortunately I can't hear you, or I would listen. As you can see, I even missed that one little leaflet right there that, I don't know, I guess I'm assuming that it's sky or something. So once again, thought the camera was on when it wasn't. But I figured there was plenty of leaves here. I did them all relatively the same. I go in with this Prussian green, doing the dark, adding that pale sage. I really like this combination for green because you can really change it depending on how much of each color you put in. If you notice with this, adding the espresso really darkens it. Starting with the apple green changes it a little bit. The more apple green you use, the more bright and pure the color looks, more what I would call green they look. If you want them to be a little more the muted greens, that lime peel, adding the lime peel is really going to give you that. Adding the espresso will give you that a little bit. You could even use, instead of using the Prussian green, you could use like moss green, or even the kelp green, which is the next shade up from the Prussian green, would give you a little bit more of that muted tone. So it's all in just what you want. If you want a little yellower leaf, just pop in a little bit of chartreuse on the edges of these leaves. But this is a color combination that I really like because it is pretty versatile, and you can vary even from leaf to leaf what you want it to look like. But I am trying to concentrate the darker colors into the center of the leaves. It makes those leaves look like they fold in just a touch, which I like that look. To me, it adds just a hint of dimension. Oh, so here we go. Look at that. I add in a little bit of chartreuse, and look at the difference between these top leaves now and the bottom leaves. They just have that little bit of a lightness to them, and it really just adds a nice variance, you know, so you don't have to use the chartreuse on all the leaves. Maybe just use it on some of them. And here I'm just kind of blending it all out. You could use an apple green to blend this out. You could use white if you wanted it to be a little lighter. I'm not a big fan. I know a lot of people blend with white colored pencil. I'm personally not a big fan in most cases of doing that, just because I find that it really mutes the colors a little bit too much for me, and not mutes them, dilutes them. It makes them pastel-y, and I'm kind of a vibrant color girl, if you can't tell by some of the color alongs that I've done. I like bold, rich colors. I do really like earthy colors as well, but I have a hard time coloring that way. There are times when I see pastel work that is absolutely beautiful. I've tried that. And it sometimes, it just never really works out for me. And I apologize, I'm a little off camera down there at the bottom. All of the leaves that I did below look just like the leaves that I'm doing right here. So I did try and skip ahead a little bit because there's no point in watching my pencil wiggle if you can't see what's happening. Once again, I apologize. It's just when you're coloring, like, you get in your little zone and you forget to look up at the camera, and you think you're in camera, but you're really not. Because I feel like I have the vast majority of this picture in, but just not the little bit of the bottom there. So once again, more leaves that I probably could have done all at once. So here I'm going in with Sunburst Yellow just to add the centers to these flowers. Now overall I want these flowers to be white, so I'm just concentrating a little bit here on the inside, using artichoke here. But really it could be a green, or it could be a darker brown. I like artichoke because it's kind of a nice blend. And then I go in and I just add these little ridges to indicate that there's some color, and by absence of any other color, they in turn become white. Now, I chose 30% warm gray, but you could use a cool gray here. You could use, what might be nice is maybe a even a light, like a gray lavender might work really well here, and that might kind of tie in the blackberries above it well. So it's really personal choice. And once again, I'll try and be more mindful of where the camera is. in order for me, because I'm right-handed and my camera is directly above me, I have to set my camera at this funky angle, which means I gotta change my book at a funky angle. And it's something that when it's in my mind, I can do it, but I think human nature, we try and square everything up, and that's kind of what ends up happening, I think. So maybe I gotta make some little post-it notes for myself to remind myself to put the angle, you know, to check the angle of the camera. So I just try and shade down by the yellow part of the flower, and then just add some strokes to indicate almost like the veining of a flower. And then, kind of like I talked about before, just feeling like if I leave it with just the white of the paper, it'll feel undone. So I go in with white colored pencil, and I'm actually pressing fairly hard. I'm trying to burnish it in a little bit, just because I know I'm not going to be adding any other color. And another method would have been, you know, the patient person probably would have done a couple of coats of white. That would probably be the proper way to do it. But me being the impatient soul that I am, I struggle with that a little bit. So this is a TriPlus fine marker by Staedler, and I just picked a brown one, and as you can see, I'm just making these little, almost like a little circle, just to indicate all those little stameny bits in the middle. And I just felt like a colored pencil wouldn't have worked as well. And I really like how this turned out. I do put a little bit of dots in the center as well. And then I decided to go in and add some actual seeds to my strawberries, because they were looking a little bald. I will go in later with a paint pen as well to add the seeds, the white part of the seeds. I did some experiments with yellow, and I just didn't like it. I'm pretty sure I cut that out of the video. But part of that might have been just testing on a scrap piece of paper to see how I liked it. I really like this Artistro acrylic paint pen set. It was pretty cheap. I want to say it was, I don't know, I would have to look honestly, but less than $20 for sure. And I get quite a few pens, maybe 30, 25, something like that. But they've really held up, and they're really good for adding little bits and bobs. And I felt like this pen actually did better than my Posca pen, so that's why I was using it here. Just adding a little bit of white here and there, and then kind of smudging it with my finger, because I didn't want the stark white. Like, I'm not trying to make them look shiny. And here I go, and I kind of play around with my blackberries again, like, and then I'm like, Wendy, leave them alone or you're gonna mess them up. So here I'm gonna go into the cat. Let me see if I can zoom in a little more. So here I'm just trying to use the artist's lines that she's given me kind of as a guideline, going in and just, I'm actually putting down a pretty light layer at this point, because I'm just trying to maybe map out where the colors are going to go. So I'm keeping it fairly light so that if I don't like it, I could erase, or I could go in with a darker color. I see a few more leaves I missed. Okay, we'll get those in a bit. I can hear you laughing at me. Not nice. I'm just kidding. I love it. Me too. It's ridiculous. Now I'm coming in with a burnt ochre and just, I want to darken up her little ear and kind of go in and deepen up some of those lines that I've done, and maybe add even some other areas. So I'm bringing those darker colors into the shadow areas, so the creases between the kitty's arm and you know, where it meets its upper body. You can see where the artist put those lines. They would be a little darker. Back here in the back, it's going to be a little darker, just more in a shadowed area. Kind of on the underside of the arm. Now I'm going in with an even deeper tone. I want that ear to be a little darker, like it's like there's, to indicate that there's a shadow there. Just adding this not only to the shadow areas, but also just as a little bit of a color variance. So maybe I'm going to add some black too, but at this point I'm just using this to see, do I like this effect? Does it look okay? Because I feel like by going in with the sepia as opposed to the black, I could go in and just make the cat overall a darker orange color if I didn't like it. But I was actually kind of liking the gray tone to it. It has that gray brown quality, and this is more, this mineral orange is more the overall color of the cat. So at this point I'm kind of filling in the cat's overall color now that I've kind of mapped in where its stripes might go. I'm just continuing to layer in, adding these colors, playing around with, do I want to have some white stripes in it? Do I want to leave some white in it? Or do I want to, I definitely wanted white on the paws and on the face, like on the little cheeks or whatever. Can you tell I don't have a cat? But kind of bringing out the darker. I like how the sepia brought in those gray tones, so I decided to bring in even more gray tones. So going in with a French gray, I think was kind of a nice mix here. Deepening up the shadows, but also laying in a little bit of coloring, like in the stripes here and there. Not a lot, because I didn't want it. I don't think cats are striped like a tiger, where it's a consistent band of color. So I just wanted to be almost like the illusion of it. So just using this to kind of blend in some of those darker tones to the mineral orange color, just kind of trying to bridge that gap a little bit here with the burnt ochre. And as you can tell, it's just a back and forth until I figure out, yeah, that's what I like, or, you know. I'm not sure what color I just had in my hand before. It was mineral orange, but I think it was the terracotta. That would have made a much darker cat. But here I'm just kind of blending in very lightly those areas. You can see how far back I go on the pencil here. Just wanting to add just the hint of color. I have a tendency to be a little heavy-handed, so it does take a little bit of a mental shift for me to switch out to this really light application. It's something that I really hope that I can achieve on a more regular basis, especially when using pencils like polychromos, because I think they're designed to be used that way a little better. Here I'm just deepening up the blacks, kind of the shadows, adding a touch of black in the darkest places. I actually prefer the look of the French gray. I wish I would have went in with the French gray, but the overall effect of black, you just have to be really careful, because when you add the black, it can be really strong. For example, right there on its crease right now, by its neck, looks really stark to me. And hopefully I'll blend that out. But I think that you can use your grays and your darker tones like sepia and things like that to achieve those shadows and not always have to jump to black. Once again, just adding in my colors here. Just using light strokes to add a little bit of color at a time. Early on, there's a point where I think I may have mislabeled one of the pencils I used when I was talking about I may have been using this goldenrod. I hope not. So just kind of blending out that darker where I put the dark. Just using this gray to kind of blend those areas of the darker tones. I still am not happy with the crease of its neck, but I do like this gray overall to tone down, to kind of blend in the colors with the white. Just kind of softening up that white a little bit, making it a little less obvious or whatever. Leaves round 535. And you would think at one point when I see these little leaves and I think, geez, Wendy, maybe you should look for more leaves. Make sure you got them all. But I don't think I ever do. I think I just do the ones that I see and move on. Because, you know, shiny object. There are berries to color. We can't be messing around with leaves. Sorry guys, I'm a little sassy today. Kind of tired. I really enjoyed coloring this page. I think it's really fun. I enjoy coloring fruit and vegetables and things like that because I know what they are. I can look up a reference photo and then I can challenge myself to make it look that way by using colored pencils. I find that way more enjoyable than things like fairies. I think they're amazing. I'm not real good at pulling that out of my head. If I can picture in my head what the fairy's supposed to look like, then I have something to go about it. I just, some people are really, really good this way. Like they have this amazing creative mind. And mine, I do tend to be a little more, I think I'm a lot more balanced than most artists in terms of analytical versus artist. I don't lean to the artist side like some do. And so I find it hard sometimes to be creative about, like, I find it hard to be imaginative sometimes. Like if you were to say to me, Wendy, make this bunny look completely like a bunny from another world, or something where I had to imagine, that's a lot harder for me. Now, I personally enjoy coloring things like fruit and that better than animals, possibly because we all enjoy coloring things we think we're better at. And I definitely am not a good animal colorist. I always laugh because my husband's very good with animals. Like he knows nature really well. And so if I color things that are wrong, he's quick to point it out to me. Like if you saw my finished pages where I went through my watercolors and I was all proud of myself because I had drawn a pine cone. And my husband took a look at it and said that I had drawn the pine cone basically upside down. Like the part that should have been up by the branch, I had hanging down. And and as soon as he said it, I realized he was right. But maybe that's a sign to me that I should do a little more of these little guys. But anyway, I'm going in. I'm using French gray to kind of depict the white, because once we put the background and things in, it's definitely gonna read white as opposed to just leaving it white or even using a white colored pencil. So I decided to go in and deepen up the shadows a little bit on his nose, kind of underneath his chin, along his neckline, just kind of deepening up those shadows a little bit. Along his leg, down where he meets the ground, adding a little darkness to indicate the shadow. Along his feet, in between his toes, that kind of thing. Then I'm going to add a few dots here. At this point you could go in with a fine liner if you wanted to, you know, really draw out the whiskers. Kind of like I went in for the flowers. Just drawing a few fur strokes here. I don't want to do too many because he's starting to look more gray. I just want to touch up his eye just a little bit because I got a little of that 10% gray over it. So here I'm doing the same thing that I did with the white flowers over by the strawberries, just adding the warm gray in just to indicate petal veins and, you know, kind of shadows and things of that nature. Adding a little bit of the jasmine in for the stamens. So while we're kind of doing things we've done before, I did set up a Facebook page, so go check it out, Jazzy Doodle Designs, and that will, it'll be a post, it'll link back to YouTube, but that's also as it grows. Right now I don't have a whole lot of people, so I'm not posting a lot of stuff on there, but it'll be a good way that I can communicate with you guys about certain things or do polls and get your feedback. It'll be a good place where we can connect. If you're not interested in Facebook, which is fine, I am working on getting an Instagram page. You can always email me. It's jazzydoodledesigns@gmail.com. So it's pretty easy, just the name of the channel @gmail. That's a good way to reach me. I always welcome you guys' feedback. I love hearing from you. I'd like to learn more about you guys and what you want to see, and just, I don't know, maybe build a community where we can interact and share resources with each other as we grow. If you would like to see a Facebook group where we can connect, I would be open to that. I am working on getting an Instagram. I have no desire to learn another platform such as Twitter. I feel like that's a little more business, politics, news oriented and less artist oriented. I could be wrong, but at this point I don't have any plans to do Twitter or TikTok really. A lot of people pushing me to do TikTok. We'll see. Never say never, right? But that's not my goal right now. Here I'm just laying the undertone for the basket. I just want it to be, I want to pull in those oranges from the cats and from the gooseberries and the strawberries and all of that. And here I'm just kind of laying in just a little seal, like think of just little cups, just to kind of indicate the wicker of the basket, just for funsies. I mainly would like one place that I could show you guys sneak peeks. I could communicate with you guys, maybe ask opinions about, like for example, when I was setting up the weekly, the Wind Down Wednesdays, it would have been nice to be able to communicate with you guys and ask, like, do you want a Wednesday? Do you want a Sunday? You know, we could have had a weekend wind down. And we still can. We could move it. But you know, things of that nature as we grow. But anyway, back to what we're doing here. I'm going into this part of the basket and just pushing in the darker tones in the shadows and in where the little twists are. I don't know why the terracotta always pops up in the middle. I'll have to go in and fix that, but I don't want to stop the narration right now to do that. It's not in our way, so we'll just ignore it. But I do want to bring in the terracotta to add a darker red tone. I've got the goldenrod and the mineral orange bringing out the overall tone of the basket. And then I'm coming in with the dark umber and kind of shading over all of it just to add a little dimension to the basket. And as you can see, once again, Wendy has left out some stuff. So the whole right hand side of that basket, for some reason, I'm not registering it in my brain anymore as being a part of the basket. So you will see me go back and fix that later. But I was diagnosed with ADHD a long time ago. I don't feel like I have a strong case of it. My kids have it, and I definitely felt like as a kid I had a lot more of it than I do now. But I do feel like sometimes I'm like, Wendy, have some patience. Take a moment and look around. Save yourself a little grief. So if you were to ask me, am I truly ADHD? Not compared to some. So I am going to draw this butterfly much like a monarch butterfly. So a little bit of orange, a little bit of red, and then some black. So here I'm just kind of going in with the yellow. Put a little red down in the bottom. I think I used poppy red, and then blending it out a little bit. And then before I get too much color laid down, I want to go in and get the black in. Now, I do recommend that you get all the color that you need in there before you do your black, because once you do your black, if you try and, like, if you miss a spot and you want to add some more yellow, it's really easy to pull in your black and smear it. So make sure you got your color where you want it before you do this next step. The black should be your last step. And you could leave those all open. I chose not to. I chose to just make it a black band there at the on the end. Just a personal preference. Going back to where you can find me, you can also find me on Pinterest, and I've been on Pinterest for a lot of years, so I have a lot of pins, and most are art related. There's stuff, definitely a lot of papercraft stuff on there as well, but there's watercolor, there's colored pencil, there's combinations, there's all the Jazzy Doodle designs is being put on there as I add it to the YouTube. It also goes on Pinterest, so you can find it there. But there's also drawing references and things that, as they catch my eye and I find them helpful, I will save them. There's some completed pages of other artists, things that inspire me or things that I found interesting. So I do this edge here and I decide that I want it to go ahead and take it down to that next level. I just felt like I wanted it to be that broader band of black there. Once again, just personal preference. Also, if you don't follow me on Ko-fi, Ko-fi, or I'm not sure if there's a dash or a hyphen, but if you like the color pencil system and you want charts, they're all there. I keep putting new ones on as I get new colored pencils and as I create more charts. Also, if you have a request, I will consider it as well. I, like many of you, I'm sure, enjoy collecting art supplies as much as I enjoy using them. And so I do have a number of colored pencils, and I'm sure I will get more. So keep watch and you will see more as we go along. Now, as I do these berries, the Scarlet Lake, I am going to change the base colors, much like I did the raspberries. I do change up what base colors I use. Almost all of them, though, I'm going to go in and color the majority of it with a base color, leaving random white bits as reflections, and I will cover over them with a lighter shade. I will go in with darker shades, but those will change up. I just want to say one last thing on the charts. So if you're interested in those charts, they are free, and I found that Ko-fi is a good place. I'm not updating, or I haven't updated all of the charts that are available on my blog. I probably will eventually, but guys, there's only so many hours in a day, and these color along videos take me a lot of time, and I enjoy doing it, so that is not me complaining at all. This is just me saying I don't know when they'll be updated on the blog to download, but you can download them for free on Ko-fi. I think Ko-fi, just you can sign in just even as a guest if you want to, or they can take your email so that it's easy login if you think you might get more charts in the future. I think it notifies you maybe if I upload something. I'm not really sure, but some of these berries I go in with black cherry. Some of these I use Tuscan red, and it's just because I want a little variance of color. It really is personal choice. The black cherry adds a little bit more of a purpley feel. The Tuscan red adds a little bit more of a rusty or mahogany red type of red. I'm going to blend these ones out with white. You could also do light peach. You could use a pink if you wanted a more pink tone in these. I just chose to do white, and then I go over the whole berry again with crimson, just saving just the barest hint of the highlight, but going over the dark colors and the red, just kind of blending it all out. But anyway, I don't know if I finished my thought on the Ko-fi, but those are free for you guys to download and use. And obviously, if the system isn't for you, I'm totally okay with that. I'm not here to tell anyone how to color, how to use their pencils, how to organize. This is just the system that works for me. I can't imagine using it a different way. Now, I will say I've upgraded my tape, and I will, in my next haul video, show you the tape that I bought, but it is a It's designed like a super adhesive or whatever, and it's a clear tape. It's a glossy tape. It's not the satin, and I feel like it's definitely an improvement. And I plan on doing a whole set of pencils. I got, what was it, the Starjoy pencils, and I need to get the numbers on there. I just created the chart. So that's not up in the Ko-fi yet because I still am creating it myself, but it will be soon. Here I'm going in with black just in the darkest areas between the berries and behind the berries, and just adding that the shadows to the berries. But anyway, I'll let you know what I think of that tape, because my struggle with tape is the first set of pencils I did, I just used Scotch satin tape, and it just peels back a little bit, and it's not that big of a deal. You just push it back over, but it is a little annoying. I want them to stay, so I'll probably go in and swap my Prismacolors and stuff out for that new tape, you know, in my spare time. But so as I moved down, I wanted even more variance in the berries, and so these I started with a more orangey red, which is the poppy red. The other thing is I'm trying to tie in all of the different colors that I use. So if you notice, like the butterfly, I used the poppy red, and in the gooseberries I used poppy red, and the Scarlet Lake I use in various reds, and I use crimson red, so I try and tie those all back in. But my goal is that I want the berries to look cohesive, so I use enough of the colors over that it's not like these are going to be yellow and the others are going to be red, because by the time we're done here, see, I've pulled in the Tuscan red, so you get that darker tone. And if you notice, I only did about 4 or 5 of these in these colors. But when I'm done, there'll just be this subtle difference that to me makes them look a little more realistic. But I'm doing them all in terms of the technical side the same way. Dark along the edges, blending it out, you know, with a mid-tone, starting with my lighter tone. Here I used peach instead of white to blend these out. I think it goes better with the more orangey feel of these. So my goal is that when I'm all done, these berries will just simply look a little less ripe. But they're going to have that same overall feel of red berries. So I don't want to leave them orange. So when you look at those, you can tell that they're orange, but it doesn't like scream at you like, why are those orange and the rest are red? That's my goal anyway. Maybe to you they're screaming that. But to me overall, they all look red to me, and that was my goal. But they don't all look like cookie cutter, you know, little berries. But using the darker tones, here I used black cherry instead of the Tuscan red, because these are a little more and here I'm using Tuscan red, so it's really intermingled, like whatever you like, whichever berry you prefer. Maybe you don't like the oranger ones, maybe you want them all to be, you know, maybe I did a particular berry that you find helpful. Here are Prismacolors, true to form. I lost an entire little chunk of lead, which is annoying. But guys, I gotta say, I really enjoy working with Prismacolor. I like their line of colors. I feel like they have colors that I struggle to find in other pencils, such as gray green light and grayed lavender and artichoke and cloud blue or powder blue. Some of these really light tones. I struggle to find them in other groups of pencils, even polychromos. Like there's no powder blue in polychromos, and it's frustrating to me because it's a color that I feel like has its place. And I like the way Prismacolors feel. I like how they blend. They work well for me and my style. That being said, I'm always challenging myself. I want to, here I'm just kind of putting in the divots in the berries, you know, the ends and whatnot. But I do want to challenge myself to learn to color a little lighter handed so that I can enjoy the Prismacolors, because they are great pencils. And I bought some Sioux colors and I really have enjoyed them. I've used them on a couple of projects that I haven't done on the channel, but I plan on doing something with them soon because I think they're a really good budget pencil for people that can't afford Prismacolor, or that just like Prismacolor and really like the idea of 180 pencils, because they were $40 for 180 pencils, and I feel like they lay down nicely. So look for that coming up. So here I started with yet a different color, the permanent red. And I'm not doing every berry the same way, so I'll probably swap out the colors again. I'll be happier when the weather gets a little nicer and I can take Ellie on more walks. She's still a puppy and she has some energy, so about every day about 2 o'clock she is just driving me crazy because she just has a lot of energy. And she doesn't understand that mom needs to work and or edit videos or whatever, and not just drop everything and throw the toy for her. She's sleeping next to me. I'll try and put up a little video of her. I have one of her. She is such a sassy dog. So she's 10 pounds, and one of her favorite toys is an old volleyball of my kids that a lot of the airs kind of went out, so it's not completely hard, and she picks up the entire ball and runs around with it, which makes me laugh because it's so big compared to how she is. So once again, video of the grandkids, video of Ellie will be at the end of this video. So once you see, I'll do a before and after of the color along, and then I'll have those videos for you, for those that are interested. So I debated a while on what color to make these berries, and in the end my thought was to make them almost like a grape. I think they're supposed to be currants, maybe. I felt like because they had the little stemmy things, I didn't feel like they were blueberries, but I think you definitely could color these like blueberries, and I thought about it. I thought about making them red, like the ones above. I think that would work as well. But in the end, I chose this probably more for any other reason than a challenge for myself, just to kind of create, I don't know, just a different color berry. But I am doing similar things, coloring the darker areas and where the berries meet with the darker tone. Using that black cherry going around kind of the stem and into the middle a little bit. But here's where I deviate off a little bit. I'm adding in this, and I will go back to that black, to the blue, but I decided I wanted some more darker tones before I did that. So I went in with the black raspberry. Because my overall goal is like a plum or a peach, or not a peach, a grape. So blending it all out with that blue, you can see how it really, it changed it. It changed the overall tone of it, and I really like it. Almost made it like a lilac or lavender color maybe. Now here I'm going in with an indigo blue because I want that blue tone in my shadow. And as you can see, when I get off of the darker areas and into the lighter areas, the blue becomes very apparent. And then I blend it back out with that powder blue, and once again it kind of brings in that blue purple tone. And I like it. I really like how these berries turned out. I don't even know if they're berries, technically. I guess you could have even, I don't know. But here I'm bringing in the pink. Hey, imagine that I forgot to do the little stems on those. I know you're shocked, right, that I forgot something? You're like, no, Wendy, we're not shocked at all. These berries and the ones up above, I'm going to do all pretty much the same way, adding the same colors, or similar colors. A lot of the colors that you've seen in other fruits. Here I actually started with the black grape, and I didn't put the crimson lake in there, or the crimson red I think I started with. Once again, I just wanted a little variation. Hey, I forgot that berry too. Excuse my hair popping in for its little debut. I really like using that darker tone around, you know, where the stem meets. And I like that sand, to me that gives that illusion that that berry is unripe. Bringing in those darker blues again. Just blending it out. Just pick and choose the colors that appeal to you. Here, kind of burnishing in the white. Wanted a little bit more. I liked how that turned out to use that sand. So I put that on a couple of those berries. I think the key to those little shine marks, I don't know, some people might disagree with me. I like them when they vary a lot. But in general, you should probably have them in the direction of the light instead of just randomly all over. That would probably take your art to the next level. But on my channel, my goal is I want to have fun. I want to be proud of my pages when I'm done. At the same time, I'm not really going for that hyper realistic. I don't think anyone's on my channel thinking they're gonna get that. And so I encourage people, if you truly want to learn how to color to that level, I think you're going to have to go to like a fine art channel or someone that specializes more in that, because there's definitely you know, the proper way to do this. People would say, okay, you gotta have a light source and you need to, there's going to be cast shadows and there's going to be tonal changes, and they're going to teach you all that. And I think that's all fantastic and not a diss to that at all. I would like to learn more of it. But given the amount of time that I have to spend doing this kind of stuff, and the fact that I'm coloring in a coloring book as opposed to learning to draw myself, I'm really okay with, for example, how these are turning out. I feel like I put my darks in a place that looks reasonable to me. Is it perfect? Nope. But I'm not stressed and I'm enjoying it and I enjoy the outcome. So I guess for me, that's where I'm at right now. And if I had more time and, you know, having, I don't know, I would like to take a class and learn all those things. And I have learned some of that stuff. But because I don't draw my own art, and because I don't want to spend 40 hours on one drawing, I think it's amazing when artists do that. And this is no judgment on them. I think that's fantastic. I just know myself well enough to know I get impatient and can't even do all the leaves on a coloring book page. To spend 40 hours on one cat face, it's probably not going to happen for me because I don't think I would enjoy it as much as I enjoy doing what I'm doing. So that's just kind of my 2 cents there. And I hope that the wisdom I do impart to you, or how I do things, if you like my color pages, and I hope that you can color along and learn something from me, because I've learned from other people. This all didn't just pop out of my brain. This is watching hundreds of YouTube channels over the years when I was doing card making and I would color the little digis. I learned some of it then. I learned some of it when I went through my watercolor, I'll call it a stage, where I was doing a lot of watercolor, and a lot of that was more creating your own actual art. And I enjoyed all of that. But what you see on these pages is the whole hodgepodge of that information crammed into my brain, and then then I share it with you. And that's why I say to people, don't come at me. I'm not trying to present myself as something I'm not. But I do feel like there's a lot of adult colorists that are like me out there that are not looking for the real, they want their pages to look good. They want them to improve, but they're not looking for hyper realism. So here I went in with that lighter tone on the filigree. Now I'm doing artichoke in the background. I think artichoke's a really good I've talked about it a few times on this page. Can you tell I like it? But I do feel like it is a good color for gold. Gold tends to have a little bit of a greenish cast, or can. Here I'm just going to add a few brighter spots, so that when I cover it all over with the artichoke, it'll just change it a little bit, but not a lot. I'm not looking for shiny gold here. I'm not looking for what I would call new gold. This is more like old brassy gold, old vintage gold, or whatever you want to call it, grimy. I'm gonna darken all of the areas around the filigree. And I will tell you, on this, I do this one and then I skip ahead. I do them, they're all identical, do them all the same way. So as you do this one, that's how we're going to do it. I do go back and add, so here you can see I'm going around it with black and popping in a little more yellow ochre. I do go back and fill in that background with a dark umber, which I don't, so I'll show it to you, but later on. Here I'm just kind of blending it out with cream. I am keeping a little bit of the white of the paper on my gold, so to speak. So here I go in with the dark umber, and I'm thinking I'm just going to go around just, the edges and the nooks and crannies, but I actually do go in to the entire thing later on. So if you want to save yourself a step, and you want it to look like mine, you can look at it this way, and then you can decide for yourself if you want to fill it in. Or maybe I fill it in right now. I thought I did it in a separate step. Oh yeah, because I was just doing the edge there. So I guess I show 2 of these, but I know I don't show all of them. So I wanted to bring in a little bit more of the purple from the blackberries up above, or the raspberries or whatever. So I come in with the black grape here, and my goal is just to make a big, almost like a checkerboard type of thing. Right here, I wish, if you can see, it's kind of folded. I probably should have done the stripes just a little bit different in that area. But I didn't, and I don't think the average person notices that. I think people that know art probably would, but I'm okay with it. And quite honestly, there's a lot of different ways you could go from here. You could leave it like this. You could burnish it in and leave it like that. You could do just one thin line down the white squares. I think that would look really good, bringing in maybe a different color and just drawing it in. I was just kind of going in, and I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do with it here. I wanted to add a little bit of another tone. So I'm just kind of darkening a little bit of the line, not the entire line. I'm not trying to make the whole square. I wanted to look fabric-y, I think is what I'm going for here. And so here I'm just laying in a little bit of a light color, not everywhere, but just a little bit. Now, part of me liked it better before I did this step. So, in fact, all of me liked it better before I did this last step. So keep that in mind. Do it the way you like to do it, but I think I liked it better with a little bit of white in there. Now here I decided I wasn't quite happy with my gold, so I'm going in with a little bit of burnt ochre, and I think it adds a little bit of richness to that filigree. So I did like that, and I wanted to add I wanted the flower part to actually have some color. Maybe I was doing the bottom ones right then, but anyway, I just wanted them to have a little bit of a pop of color. But you could definitely do those in just leaving them in the gold. And here's where I decide I really want the whole background to be darker, making that filigree pop out a little bit more. You could even go in with a black if you wanted to. And I do that on all four. And I do it on the sides as well. So here you'll see me color it with artichoke. Later on I do go back and cover it with dark umber. So if you want to do things all at one time, feel free to go ahead and cover it with the dark ochre. Or maybe you like it better with the gold or the artichoke, more of the lighter color. I actually prefer it with the darker color. Okay guys, I hope I don't mess this up because backgrounds are always tricky. So let's go. Wish me luck. So for the rest of the background, there really isn't a whole lot to talk you through. I've got the 4 colors that I use for the top half, and I'll switch them out as I move down. There's really no rhyme or reason for how I'm doing this. I'm just trying to blend them out and trying to get kind of a feel. I want it to be not really a bokeh, but a little bit of a bokeh in the middle. Up at the top, I was just going for bigger blends. I'm not crazy about how the background turned out. I don't dislike it, but I don't know if it was maybe color choice. Initially, my thought was to do the entire thing in kind of green, like a light green yellow scheme, and maybe that would have been better, or possibly a blue up at the top blending down to the green at the bottom. I'm not really sure. Tell me what you think about it. And in the end, I wish I would have used darker colors on the edges. By the time I realized that, I had put, this paper doesn't take a lot of layers, at least the way I color. It doesn't take a lot of, I want to be fair. It takes a decent amount of layers. I tend to be a little heavy-handed, and I do quite a few of the lighter layers. I just wish I think I would have been happier had I started with darker colors towards the top and blended out to where it was darker around the edges and lighter in the center. But anyway, I'm going to leave you to it, and I'll pop back in at the end. So as I'm finishing this up, tell me what you think. Do you like the colors that we did in the background? Does the page look cohesive to you? Is it the white flowers that are throwing everything off? I feel like something is just a little unbalanced. And I feel like maybe it's because the bunny and the cat are not the focal points of the page. I feel like the berries definitely take center stage. And maybe that's what feels a little, like I said, just a little off. Like when I look at each element, I like it. But there's just something, can't quite put my finger on it. So don't forget to stay to the end to see the baby pictures and dog videos. Also hit the like and the subscribe and drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you're drinking. Let me know whatever you want. I'm open. I'm all for it. So, wow, sorry about all the flippage there. I just have to have it at the right angle. So here's where I'm putting that dark umber in, and this is a wrap for this one. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon.
Hi, Baby Yoda. Are you ready to go to Jackson's party, Baby Yoda? Are you ready to go, Baby Yoda?
They were going to Jackson's 8th birthday party. Here's Jackson being a great big brother.
What are you doing? You're a mean dog, Ellie girl.